for them.
Okay. So have you worked on Spring Boot applications?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have.
Okay. So what is the advantages of using Spring Boot applications and what are all its features?
Yeah, sure, sir. So, like in Spring Boot, it is very convenient as most of the things are auto configured. For example, earlier we used to create the project, then we used to export it as jar, ER, or WAR, and then manually we had to deploy it over the server. But currently, Spring Boot comes with the embedded server, which is Tomcat server, and we don't need to create any jar, WAR, or ER files. It automatically, we just create the project and we run it. It does everything internally. Then we are having a feature like earlier we used to take care of we used to add all the dependencies, and we were responsible to take care of the compatibility of versions of all the dependency. Here we are getting a parent thing which take care of all the versions, compatible versions of dependency which we are adding. So this thing has been taken care by Spring Boot itself. Then dependency injection is the thing which has been provided by Spring Boot. It automatic take care of the creation of the object, and wherever it is required, it auto add that. So this is the one thing. Another thing, and then it also give us the security dependency, and there are multiple things which is embedded inside that, which we can just put the dependency and we can use it.
Okay. How this auto configuration works in Spring Boot?
Auto configuration is like things like wherever we put like annotation at auto-wired or any such configurations. It actually scans all the classes, and it get all the bean ready so that whenever it
is a different annotation, that is a component scan annotation.
Yeah.
So I'm asking about the auto configuration thing.
So auto configuration is like there are the configuration which is already there in the Spring, which we are not customizing. Those things it picks in the auto configuration, and it
yes, but it will not scan the classes. Component scan only will scan the classes.
Right. Actually, there is 3 component inside Spring Boot application. One of them is at the rate enable auto configuration, and inside and another is that at the rate component scan.
Yeah, but I was asking about the question of how auto configuration works.
So that works its main work is to configure all the predefined configuration given by Spring Boot.
So no, I do not understand. Like predefined configuration in the Spring Boot means?
I think this is the one example I can tell you, it's auto wire thing. It is predefined the auto wire is the auto configuration which is included in while enabling. I mean that is being taken care while.
Basically, how do you create a Spring Boot application?
For that we use STS. So inside that we create new project, add all the dependency, and if major dependency is Spring Web, and if there is any SQL, if there is any database, basically if I talk about SQL, then we will include dependency of SQL, and then we will create all the POM and all those things by itself, and also the main class.
If you define a SQL and you have not added any properties for connecting to the database, what it will happen?
If we have not given any properties and we are trying to access, it will generate error. It won't be able to connect because it needs the URL and password as well as username to connect.
Then what is the process that is called? You are getting some error, no?
Yeah. So in that, like, we have created the project. After that, in properties file, we will just define the property where we define like it's something spring dot data source, and then there is something, and at last there is a URL. We will give the URL of the database, then username and password. This will, yeah, this is actually the this configuration is done through the enable auto configuration. Like, it will connect and it will like bind all the properties with the data source, which earlier in
that was my first question.
Yeah, right.
Do you understand now?
Yes sir, I got it.
Okay. So what is this component scan at the rate of component scan is doing?
Sir, component scan is like it tells the Spring to scan all the subclasses and all the subclasses to find out what are the different components which are marked like at a service or at a controller, all those things. So it gets idea beforehand where there is a service class, where there is a controller thing. So this is what the component scan does.
Okay. So what is that at the rate of Spring Boot application is doing?
Sir, it is a combination of basically 3 annotation. 2 we have already discussed. One is the enable auto configuration, and one is component scan, and third is at at configuration only. So at configuration, if we talk about this, then this is for the custom configuration which we provide from our end. Yes, sir.
We lost your internet.
Should I repeat? Should I start, sir, or should I repeat my answer?
Yeah, you are disconnected in between.
Oh, now you're able to hear and see me, no?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, sir. So I was telling that two of the component, which is like I was telling that Spring Boot annotation, it is basically combination of 3, 2 of which we have discussed, and the third is at configuration. So at configuration is used for configuring all the custom configuration which we provide. So this is the what at Spring Boot application annotation does.
Okay. So how do you handle your properties in Spring Boot application?
How do we handle, like we have properties application dot properties file where we are defined whatever property we have to declare, we declare there only. So I'm not getting exactly what you want to know.
Like there are different types of different types of files for different profiles, no?
Yeah,
like
right. Correct. So there are different profile there, like for dev, for prod, for this. We have different application dot properties for them, and in the main application dot property, we set profile is equals to and give the name of that profile which we want to enable.
Okay. So how do you deploy your applications, Spring Boot applications?
Sir, currently, like we just commit the things in the Git, and also we are having that AWS S3 container where we upload our code, and it is being taken care. Deployment thing is currently taken care by the DevOps team, but I know that they use Jenkins for CI/CD pipeline, and their Sonar is implemented to check the quality of the code. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you written any JUnit test cases?
So JUnit test cases we have used for we have written few. Yeah.
Basically, why we are writing a JUnit test cases?
So if you want to check any individual any individual method, we don't want to run a whole project, and or maybe at the time when we are testing, we don't have the whole project ready itself. There are few scenario where we use JUnit, we write JUnit where we check few things like suppose we want to assert if the value it is accepting null or not, or it is giving a response as null or not. These things we write and check through JUnit. And also we create dummy request thing, and we request and we see that if that method or endpoint is working or not.
What is the difference between this @controller and @rest controller?
Yes, sir. So control @rest controller is combination of two. It's a combination of controller and request body. So basically, when we are using @controller, it is expected to return some view. But in rest controller, we can return the object in the form of JSON, XML. It can be multiple format we can return. So and also rest controller, it's a basically stateless process, a stateless transfer, where the object is returned and passed using the HTTP protocol, and we are not saving the state of that object anywhere.
So what is the difference between this @service and @repository?
Sure, sir. So @service is being used for the service layer, where we define the logic, like controller controller have all the gets all the request, and it knows which method to call from service, and service is the one which actually doing all the logical. We define all the logical things there. Service class, and service class calls the repository class. Repository is basically it interact with the DB database, and it gets the requested value which is requested by service class, and it pass it on in the form of bean, which is model. So it passes that to the service. So service class is basically where we implement our logic, and repository is where we we interact with the database and call the function for DB.
What will happen if I specify @service? So in the place of @repository.
Sir, I think like I have not tried this, but yeah, I think like for Spring Boot, they during startup time only they check all the component, and they identify them according to that only. Like if it's marked service, they will keep them in service. Maybe some service container or something would be there, like it will segregate in the service thing. So if we will mark them at a repository, so while connecting it will be while creating the beans, it will try to find that in the service category. It won't find that class, then it won't be able to call that bean, in fact, because it will check for its category, and it will be not in the service.
Okay. But it is not like that. It will not throw any error. Okay.
But during runtime also it will work fine.
Yes. Okay. But you will not get the features of DAO.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, how do you test your application for REST or yeah?
So we write the JUnit code only, like
like testing. Not a JUnit. Like basically, how you test your application? So, like you have developed something and you want to test. So how do you do that? By using Postman, Swagger.
Postman, sir. So okay. We use Postman here.
Okay, yeah. So basically, the scenario is like I want to store the employee details to the database.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just want to explain you the scenario. So say like you want to create a new project.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you will follow? What are all the classes you will create? Models,
sure.
Annotations, and how you store it to the database, and basically how you fetch from the database.
Sure.
So could you please explain this?
Yeah. So first of all, we will create, like if it's employee, we want to save the employee detail in employee table. We will create a model model class, which will be employee.java class, where we will define all the attributes like name, salary, or whatever is there. We will set declare getter and setter there. This will be our model class, and then here we mark it as annotated with at entity. And if there is any auto-generated value also, then there also we use annotation of generate value. And apart from that, we use annotation for defining the ID. For ID, before if we have some ID of the employee, so when we declare it int ID, before above that we declare at ID to make clear that this is the primary key, basically an ID. Then after that, we will create one repository for that, which will employ repository or repo. It will extend either a CRUD or JPA repository. It will be an interface. And then we will create service class, employee service, where we will inject bean of repo. And using that, we will there are multiple methods which Spring Boot provide, like save, find by ID, find by ID, find by name. So if we want to save, then we will create a method there for saving, and we will use repo bean dot save, and we will provide the user employee object in service class. So in service class, basically we will actually implement the logic. Then we will have a controller, employee controller class, employee controller dot java class, where we will annotate it as in service class. We'll use annotation of at service, and here in controller we will use at rest controller. And there we will be using suppose if you want a common URL for all the methods, then we will use at request mapping at class level, and we will give that common endpoint. And then inside the method, we will use above the method we will use at get mapping, at post mapping, as per the requirement, and we will give the URI or URL there itself. And if suppose we are trying to access any employee with its some ID, so we need to fetch that ID from the request parameter. So for that, we will be using at a path variable, or a path variable we will be using to fetch that. And if we want to save, in that case, in that method, parameter will be at request body, because it will be getting the
here one thing, like, so I want to update the employee details in the database. So which HTTP protocol that you will be using for that, and how do you achieve that?
The employee details, right?
Yeah, say like I have 10 employee details. I want to modify the employee ID number 5. Okay, so how you will do that?
For this, we will use patch method. Patch.
Okay. What this patch will do?
Patch is used basically for changing the value of some of the attribute tables attribute, not all.
Okay. So then what is this put protocol will do?
Yeah, which protocol, sir?
Patch you have already explained. What about put?
Put. So put will so by using put, we can also insert the the new employee object, like new entity inside the table. And apart from that, basically most of the time put is used to change, like during put we need to pass the value for the all all the attribute. Like if we are having three attribute in employee, then if we want to modify it using put, we have to provide them all the three values. We cannot do like provide them the ID and just want to change the name, then we'll provide the ID and we will provide the name and it will do it. It will be not done by put. For this, we will be using patch.
Okay. So we'll go to core Java. So what is the difference between this primitive and non-primitive data type?
Okay. So primitive data type is just like example int, char. These are the primitive. And non-primitive data type are like collection, stack, collection, basically in that everything is there. So primitive data type, it does not work upon the object concept. And non-primitive, like if we talk about the collection, it works, it is used as an object. It works on the object concept. It basically, it creates an object and then it functions. And but in primitive, like when we define int I something, it is not that I is not actually the object. It's not the object. It's primitive.
Okay, what are all the primitive data types?
What
are all the primitive data types?
Integer, float, double, char, string.
Oh, you mean string is a primitive data type?
I'm a bit confused. No, string is not, because their object concept is used. No, string is not the primitive data type. So.
Sorry, can you repeat again?
I think it's like in string we use the object concept, so I guess it is not in primitive.
Okay, so when you are defining a string, so you will be defining it in two ways, like as a literal as well as a new object, no?
Yeah, right.
So
right.
why we are defining it in two different ways, and how it is handled internally in the perspective of memory?
Sure, sir. So when we define it using literal, at that time it basically search for that value in string pool, and if that object is already present in string pool, it will just refer to that object. And but when we are declaring it using new keyword, at that time, whether it is present or not, it will create a new object and it will insert that object inside the string pool. Basically here two objects, it creates two objects, one in string pool and one it creates in the that program area. So it will be done in this way here.
Why it is storing in two different areas or memory locations?
Sir, basically string is it is working on the concept of like string pool, so it needs to maintain it. And like if there is new entry or when you are creating a new object, it copy that and save that object in the string pool as well, so that in future if you are trying to access the same object, like I told you in literal, when we are declaring in literal way, it will just refer that, it will not create the new, so it will save lots of, it will be more efficient for.
Okay, can you repeat again? So I lost in between.
Yes, sure, sir. So I'm saying that in like it whenever there is any new object, it just save it in the string pool, and when we declare any string using that using literal, it will if that string already exists, that object already exists, it will reuse that. So in this way, it will be more efficient.
Okay. I was thinking, like, when you create a new object, whether it will be stored in the constant pool or in the heap memory?
Sir, one it will be saved in the constant pool, and the one object will be there in the heap, which will be which we are using in the program now. That will be in heap, and the one which like in constant pool also, it will make one object and save there.
Okay. A bit confused. Okay. So how do you handle exception in Java?
Sir, using we extend, we throw exception. Yes, we throw exception using throws and throw, and try and catch as well. And yes.
So what will happen if I did not specify catch? I specify only try and finally. What will happen? Or how do you handle the exception?
Okay. So if we don't specify catch, it will generate error. With try, we need one catch, I guess.
See, example, I have only try and finally.
As a try and finally. So it will finally will definitely, it will execute, and the try block will execute if it encounters any exception. It will throw that exception in the form, like it will not be handled. That exception will not be handled. It will be treated as unhandled format only. But finally block will execute apart from it throws exception also.
So what is the difference between error and exception?
Sure. Sir, error is error is exception is one which cannot be handled using the logic. It is basically when suppose we wrote some division thing, and we are asking the input from user, and the user can provide the like we are doing a divided by 2, and user provides the value of a divided by b, and b is equals to 0. So this cannot be handled using our logic, because in logic we can only divide. This thing is called basically exception, which we handle using by extending the implementing or that runtime exception and all those things. And error is the one which I think error is the logical part, I guess.
So error is a logical.
Yeah.
Or exception?
Exception, it's a kind like it cannot be handled using logic, so we handle that exceptions only. We can only handle that.
No. No. Can you repeat again? Like, what is the difference between error and exception?
Exception is one which cannot be handled using the logic. It can
which means,
which mean like as I gave you example, like if we are performing any division and we are asking the value of a and b from user can provide it 0 as b, and we are doing a by b, then a divided by 0 will be like it will generate an exception, because this is actually it cannot be handled by our logic. We cannot do anything here. So either we can check, or we can put try and catch, or else suppose there is a we are trying to insert SQL query where we are trying to insert null. User is trying to give null value in the primary key. It will generate SQL exception. So this cannot be handled by improving our logic, because we can write the logic to insert the.
Then how you will improve the errors?
Sir, error thing is I'm a bit confused in errors, sir, actually.
Then how do you handle the error?
Uh,
The exception you are saying like this is not for the logic, but how do you handle the error? What kind of error that you will get in Java? Or what are all the errors that you have faced so far, and how you have rectified it?
compilation error is the one which we face. Actually, error I think it is being error is the one which we which is caught during the compilation time, I guess.